The Arizona sun blazed mercilessly over the outskirts of Phoenix, turning the asphalt into shimmering waves of heat. It was 3 in the afternoon on a Saturday in late July, and the temperature had already climbed past 110 degrees Fahrenheit. The Desert Winds mobile home park sat at the edge of the city, a collection of weathered trailers and mobile homes arranged in uneven rows along dusty streets lined with scraggly mesquite trees and towering saguaro cacti. Diane Thompson wiped sweat from her forehead as she walked from her beat-up Toyota Corolla toward trailer number 47. Her feet ached from the double shift she had just finished at Rosie's Diner downtown. The black apron stuffed in her canvas bag still smelled of grease and coffee. At 32 years old, Diane looked older than her years. Dark circles shadowed her green eyes, and her blonde hair, pulled back in a ponytail, showed strands of premature gray. But when she thought of her daughter Emma waiting inside, she managed a tired smile. The Desert Winds Park was far from luxurious, but it had become home over the past 2 years. After her divorce from Emma's father, a man whose temper had left scars both visible and invisible, Diane had scraped together enough money to rent this small 2-bedroom trailer. The neighbors were mostly working-class families, retirees on fixed incomes, and single parents like herself trying to make ends meet. Despite the challenges, there was a sense of community here that Diane appreciated. Her neighbor, old Mrs. Patricia Walsh, often watched Emma when Diane worked late. The family 2 trailers down, the Rodriguezes, sometimes shared homemade tamales. Diane climbed the 3 metal steps to her front door, noticing that the plastic flamingo Emma had insisted on planting in their tiny patch of dirt was now faded from the relentless sun. Inside, the air conditioning unit rattled, but provided blessed relief from the heat. Emma sat cross-legged on their worn couch, coloring in a notebook, her dark brown hair falling in waves around her small face. "Mommy!" Emma jumped up, running to hug her mother's legs. "Hey, sweetheart," Diane said, kissing the top of her daughter's head. "Were you good for Mrs. Walsh?" "Yes, we made lemonade, and she taught me how to play rummy." Diane smiled, setting down her bag. She noticed Emma had drawn a picture of their trailer with bright flowers all around it. Flowers that didn't exist in their brown patch of desert earth, but that lived vibrantly in her daughter's imagination. The rest of Saturday passed peacefully. Diane made mac and cheese for dinner, while Emma chatted about wanting to get a pet rabbit. They watched a movie together on their small television, and by 8:30, Emma was tucked into bed, her stuffed elephant clutched to her chest. Diane had just settled onto the couch with a cup of tea when her phone buzzed. Derek Holland. She stared at the name on the screen, her stomach tightening. Derek was her boyfriend of 4 months, a construction worker she had met at the diner. In the beginning, he had been charming and attentive, bringing Emma little gifts and making Diane feel noticed for the first time in years. But recently, things had changed. The texts had become more frequent, more demanding. Where was she? Why hadn't she answered sooner? Last week, he had grabbed her arm hard enough to leave bruises when she mentioned needing to work extra shifts. Diane knew the signs. She had lived them before with Emma's father. Yet some part of her had hoped Derek would be different, that her judgment hadn't failed her again. The text read, "Coming over. Be there in 20. Diane's hands trembled. It was late. Emma was asleep. "Tomorrow is better," she typed back. The response was immediate. "Tonight. We need to talk." 25 minutes later, Derek's truck rumbled into the trailer park, its headlights cutting through the darkness. Diane opened the door before he could knock, not wanting him to wake Emma. Derek stepped inside, and immediately Diane smelled the alcohol on his breath. His blue eyes were bloodshot, and his jaw was set in that familiar hard line she had learned to fear. "Why didn't you answer my calls this afternoon?" he demanded, closing the door harder than necessary. "I was working, Derek. You know I can't have my phone out during shifts." "That's bullshit. You're avoiding me." "I'm not. I'm just tired. I worked 12 hours today." Derek moved closer, his presence filling the small living space. At 6 feet tall with broad shoulders built from years of construction work, he could be intimidating when he wanted to be. "You think you're too good for me now? Is that it?" "Derek, please, Emma's sleeping. Can we talk about this tomorrow when I'm what? Sober? You think I'm drunk?" Diane tried to step back, but the trailer offered little room to maneuver. "I just think we should talk when we're both calm." His hand shot out, gripping her arm exactly where the bruises from last week had just started to fade. "I'm calm, Diane. I'm perfectly calm." But he wasn't. Diane could see the rage building behind his eyes, the same rage she had seen in her ex-husband's face too many times. Her heart hammered against her ribs. "You're hurting me," she whispered. "I'm hurting you." Derek's laugh was bitter. "You have no idea what hurt is. I do everything for you. I buy things for that kid of yours. And this is how you treat me?" He released her arm, only to shove her backward. Diane stumbled against the kitchen counter, knocking over the dish rack. Plates clattered loudly, and she prayed Emma wouldn't wake up. "Derek, stop. Please just go home." But he didn't. Instead, he grabbed her by the shoulders and shook her. "You don't get to tell me what to do." In the small back bedroom, Emma stirred. She had been dreaming about rabbits hopping through a field of sunflowers when a loud crash penetrated her sleep. Her eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the darkness. Another sound, her mother's voice, frightened and pleading. Emma's small body went rigid with fear. She knew that tone. She had heard it before, years ago, when her father still lived with them. Carefully, Emma slipped out of bed, clutching her stuffed elephant. She tiptoed to her bedroom door and opened it just a crack. Through the narrow gap, she could see into the living room. Her mother was pressed against the kitchen counter, and Derek was yelling at her. Emma watched, frozen, as Derek's hand connected with her mother's face in a sharp slap that echoed through the trailer. Diane cried out, her hand flying to her cheek. "Stop it! You made me do this!" Derek shouted. "Why do you always make me do this?" He grabbed a handful of Diane's hair, jerking her head back. Terror, unlike anything Emma had ever known, flooded her small body. She wanted to scream, to run to her mother, but her legs wouldn't move. Then Derek's fist drew back, and Emma knew with horrible certainty what would come next. She couldn't watch anymore. She couldn't stay. Some instinct for survival, stronger than her fear, kicked in. Emma turned and ran to the back window of her bedroom. Her small fingers struggled with the latch, but finally it gave way. The window slid open with a soft scrape. Emma could still hear her mother's cries and Derek's angry voice as she climbed through the window, her stuffed elephant falling to the ground below. The night air was still warm, carrying the scent of creosote bushes and distant rain that never came. Emma's bare feet hit the dirt, and she ran. She didn't know where she was going. She just knew she had to find help. The trailer park was dark except for the occasional porch light. Emma ran past Mrs. Walsh's trailer, past the Rodriguez's, toward the main road that led away from Desert Winds. Behind her, she could still hear shouting. Tears streamed down her face as her small legs pumped faster. The desert night pressed in around her, vast and indifferent. A coyote howled somewhere in the distance. Emma's breath came in gasps, her chest burning, but she didn't stop. She reached the main road, a two-lane stretch of cracked asphalt that ran toward the highway. A few cars passed, their headlights briefly illuminating her small figure before disappearing into the darkness. Emma didn't know what to do. She was 9 years old, alone in the dark, and her mother was being hurt. She stood at the edge of the road, sobbing when she saw lights in the distance. About a quarter-mile down the road sat a gas station, its fluorescent lights glowing like a beacon. And in the parking lot, Emma could see motorcycles, lots of them. Her father had always told her to stay away from bikers, that they were dangerous. But as another wave of fear for her mother washed over her, Emma made a decision. She started running toward the gas station, her small feet slapping against the rough asphalt, her heart pounding with desperate hope. "Thomas, Tommy Fletcher, stood beside his Harley-Davidson Road King, a bottle of water in his hand, watching the sun's last light fade behind the Estrella Mountains. At 45 years old, Tommy had the weathered look of someone who had lived hard and survived to tell about it. His brown hair was streaked with grey, pulled back in a short ponytail beneath his black bandana. Scars marked his forearms, some from his 2 tours in Iraq as a Marine, others from the years he had spent trying to outrun his demons with alcohol and bad decisions. But that was before the Desert Riders, before he had found purpose again. The motorcycle club had saved his life in ways he was still learning to articulate. It had given him brotherhood, structure, and most importantly, a family that understood what it meant to carry weight you couldn't set down. "Tommy, you want chips or something? I'm going in," called James Anderson, better known as Bear, to everyone in the club. Bear was aptly named, 6'4", 260 pounds of muscle and kindness. His black beard was carefully trimmed, and despite his intimidating size, his brown eyes were gentle. Bear worked as a firefighter in Phoenix, and his presence in the Desert Riders brought a sense of steady reliability that Tommy valued. "Nah, I'm good," Tommy replied, taking another sip of water. The Desert Riders weren't an outlaw club. They were a brotherhood of men and women who rode together, supported each other, and gave back to the community. Many were veterans like Tommy. Some were first responders like Bear. Others were teachers, mechanics, nurses, and construction workers who found freedom and family in the motorcycle culture that had become such an integral part of American life. Rachel Martinez emerged from the gas station, a bag of beef jerky in one hand and her helmet in the other. At 38, Rachel was the best motorcycle mechanic in 3 counties, with a reputation for being able to resurrect any bike from the dead. Her long black hair was braided down her back, and her olive skin showed the tan of someone who spent most of her time outdoors. Rachel was also a survivor. 5 years ago, she had left an abusive marriage with nothing but the clothes on her back and a determination never to be a victim again. "Miguel says we should roll out in 15, Rachel announced, referring to Miguel Santos, another member who was inside paying for gas. "It's getting late." There were 8 Desert Riders at the gas station that night, all returning from a charity ride in Tucson. The ride had raised money for veterans services, something the club participated in regularly. They had ridden hard through the heat of the day, and now they were ready to head home to their respective houses, scattered throughout the Phoenix metropolitan area. Tommy nodded, walking toward his bike. He was reaching for his helmet when he heard it. A sound that cut through the rumble of engines and casual conversation. A child crying. No, not just crying, sobbing with the kind of desperation that turned blood cold. He turned, and there she was. A little girl, no more than 9 or 10 years old, running into the gas station parking lot. She wore pajama shorts and a t-shirt with a unicorn on it. Her feet were bare and bleeding from running on the rough road. Her face was streaked with tears, and her eyes were wild with panic. "Help!" Emma screamed, her voice breaking. "Please help! He's hurting my mom!" The entire parking lot went silent. Every member of the Desert Riders turned to look at the little girl who had appeared out of the darkness like a ghost. Tommy moved first, his Marine training overriding his shock. He crossed the distance in long strides and knelt down in front of Emma, making himself less intimidating. Hey, it's okay," Tommy said gently, his hands out in a calming gesture. "You're safe now. What's your name?" Emma's chest heaved with sobs. Up close, Tommy could see the absolute terror in her eyes. "Emma?" she gasped. "Emma Grace Thompson, please, you have to help my mom. He's hitting her. He's going to kill her." Rachel was at Tommy's side in an instant, her own memories of violence making her move with urgent purpose. "Where's your mom, sweetheart?" she asked, her voice soft but firm. "At home, at the Desert Winds. Please, we have to go now." Bear had already pulled out his phone, dialing 911. This is James Anderson with the Phoenix Fire Department, badge number 4287. We have a child reporting domestic violence in progress at the Desert Winds Mobile Home Park. We need police immediately. Tommy looked at Emma's bleeding feet and made a decision. Bear, you wait here for the cops and bring them in. Rachel, you're with me. Miguel, Danny, follow us. The rest of you stay here. Miguel Santos, a stocky man with tattoos covering both arms and a gentle soul that contradicted his appearance, was already on his bike. Danny Williams, the youngest member at 26 and a former army medic, jogged over to his motorcycle. Tommy turned back to Emma. Emma, I need you to ride with me. I need you to show us where your house is. Can you do that? Emma nodded frantically. Tommy picked her up carefully, feeling how small and fragile she was, and settled her on the bike in front of him. Hold onto the handlebars right here. I've got you. You're not going to fall. Rachel mounted her own bike, her jaw set in a hard line that Tommy recognized. When Rachel got that look, heaven help anyone who got in her way. Miguel and Danny were already starting their engines. Which way? Tommy asked Emma. That way. Emma pointed down the road toward the trailer park. Number 47, please hurry. The four motorcycles roared to life, their engines shattering the quiet desert night. Tommy could feel Emma trembling against him as he accelerated, keeping one protective arm around her while steering with the other. The Desert Winds was only a quarter-mile away, but every second felt like an eternity. Tommy's mind was already in tactical mode, assessing the situation. A man hurting a woman in a confined space, potentially drunk or on drugs. Likely armed. Children present. They had to be smart, but they also had to be fast. The trailer park came into view, its scattered lights marking it against the dark desert landscape. That one, Emma cried, pointing to a trailer with its lights blazing and the door slightly ajar. Tommy pulled into the gravel driveway, cutting the engine. Rachel, Miguel, and Danny flanked him on either side. Even before he dismounted, Tommy could hear the violence happening inside. A woman's scream, the crash of furniture, a man's voice thick with rage and alcohol. Tommy lifted Emma off the bike and set her down gently. He looked at Rachel. Stay with her. Like hell, Rachel replied. Danny stays with her. I'm going in. Tommy knew better than to argue. Danny knelt beside Emma, his medic training already making him assess her injuries. I've got her, he said quietly. Go. Tommy, Rachel, and Miguel approached the trailer. Through the open door, they could see a scene that made Tommy's blood run cold, despite all the violence he had witnessed in war. A blonde woman was on the floor, blood running from her nose and split lip. A man in jeans and a dirty white t-shirt stood over her, his fist raised for another blow. Tommy didn't hesitate. He hit the trailer door with his shoulder, sending it flying open. Step away from her, now! Derek Holland whirled around, his face flushed with alcohol and adrenaline. Who the hell are you? Get out of my... That was as far as he got. Tommy crossed the small space in 2 strides and grabbed Derek by the throat, slamming him against the wall, hard enough to rattle the pictures hanging there. I said step away from her. Derek tried to fight back, swinging wildly, but Tommy had dealt with worse men in worse situations. He had also dealt with his own demons long enough to know how to control his rage. He wanted to hurt this man, wanted to make him feel every bit of pain he had inflicted, but that wasn't who Tommy Fletcher was anymore. Miguel moved to help Diane up from the floor, while Rachel positioned herself between Derek and the woman, her dark eyes blazing. You like hitting women, Rachel said, her voice dangerously quiet. How about you try hitting someone who hits back? Derek's bravado crumbled as he looked at the 3 bikers who had suddenly filled his world. Tommy could smell the Jack Daniels on his breath, see the cowardice behind the anger. Men like Derek were always the same, big and tough when facing someone weaker, but quick to fold when confronted with real opposition. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Bear had gotten through to the police fast. Tommy maintained his grip on Derek's throat, not choking him, but keeping him pinned. "You move, you try anything, and I promise you'll regret it. The cops are coming." "You're done hurting her." Diane sat on the floor, Miguel's large hand supporting her back, and began to cry. Not from pain, though Tommy could see she was hurt, but from the overwhelming emotion of rescue. "Emma," she gasped. "Where's Emma? Is she okay?" "She's outside," Rachel said gently, moving to kneel beside Diane. "She's the one who found us. She's safe, I promise." "My daughter saved me," Diane whispered, and fresh tears spilled down her bruised face. Two police cruisers pulled up outside, their red and blue lights painting the trailer in alternating colors. Officers rushed in, weapons drawn, and Tommy slowly released Derek, raising his hands to show he wasn't a threat. "He was assaulting her when we got here. The little girl came to us for help. I'm Thomas Fletcher. These are my friends, Rachel Martinez and Miguel Santos." The officers quickly assessed the situation. One of them, Officer Patricia Brennan, a 15-year veteran with the Phoenix PD, took one look at Diane's face and Derek's guilty expression and knew exactly what had happened. She had worked enough domestic violence calls to recognize the pattern. "Sir, put your hands behind your back," Officer Brennan told Derek. "This is bullshit. She's my girlfriend. These people broke into my—" "Hands behind your back, now!" Officer Brennan wasn't asking. Derek was handcuffed and led outside to a patrol car. Another officer, younger and less experienced, began taking statements. Paramedics arrived, immediately attending to Diane's injuries. Through it all, Tommy's mind was on the little girl outside. Emma had been brave beyond her years, but bravery always came with a cost. He stepped outside and found Emma still with Danny, wrapped in a blanket someone had provided. Bear had arrived with the police, and now he stood like a mountain beside them. Emma saw Tommy and ran to him, throwing her small arms around his waist. "Thank you," she sobbed into his leather vest. "Thank you for saving my mom." Tommy's throat tightened. He knelt down and gently tilted Emma's chin up so she could see his face. "You saved your mom, Emma. You were the bravest person here tonight. You did exactly the right thing." "Is he going to jail?" "Yes, he's going to jail. And he's never going to hurt your mom again." Emma's bottom lip trembled. "I was so scared." "I know you were, but you were brave even when you were scared. That's what real courage is." Diane was brought out on a stretcher, though she insisted she could walk. The paramedics wanted to take her to the hospital to be checked for a concussion and to photograph her injuries for evidence. When Diane saw Emma, she reached out desperately. "Baby, come here." Emma ran to her mother and Diane pulled her close, kissing her head over and over. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you had to see that." "I'm so sorry." "It's okay, Mommy. The bikers helped us. They're heroes." Diane looked over Emma's head at Tommy, Rachel, Miguel, Danny, and Bear standing in a semicircle around them. In her worst moment, these strangers had appeared like guardians from the desert night. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to thank us," Rachel said, her voice thick with emotion. "You just have to stay safe." As the paramedics prepared to transport Diane to the hospital, a problem arose. "What about Emma?" Diane asked frantically. "She can't be alone. I don't want her alone." Mrs. Patricia Walsh had appeared, drawn by the commotion, still in her bathrobe. "I can watch her, dear. You know I will." But Emma clung to Tommy's hand. "Can they come?" she asked her mother. "Can the bikers come?" Officer Brennan, who had been listening, stepped forward. "Mrs. Thompson, would you feel comfortable with these individuals accompanying you to the hospital and staying with your daughter?" Diane looked at the desert riders, these strangers who had answered her daughter's desperate call. Something in their faces told her they could be trusted. Yes, I would. And so it was decided. Rachel and Bear would follow the ambulance to the hospital, staying with Emma while Diane was treated. Tommy, Miguel, and Danny would stay behind to complete their statements to the police. As the ambulance pulled away, its lights cutting through the darkness, Tommy watched it go. He thought about how a simple stop for gas had turned into something much more significant. In the brotherhood of motorcycle culture, there was an unspoken code. You protected those who couldn't protect themselves. You stood up for the vulnerable. You answered the call, even when it came from a terrified 9-year-old girl running through the desert night. The Desert Riders had answered that call tonight. But Tommy had a feeling this was just the beginning of something bigger. Sunday morning broke over Phoenix with the same relentless heat that defined the desert summer. At Good Samaritan Hospital in downtown Phoenix, Diane Thompson sat on the edge of an examination bed while a doctor studied her x-rays on a computer screen. The night had been long and surreal, filled with police questions, medical examinations, and the constant worry about Emma. "No broken bones," Dr. Catherine Reynolds said, turning from the screen. "That's good news. You have significant bruising to your ribs, face, and arms. The split lip will heal on its own. I'm concerned about the blows to your head, but the CT scan came back clear. No concussion. You were very fortunate, Mrs. Thompson." Fortunate. Diane wanted to laugh at the word, but it hurt too much. She'd been fortunate that Emma had found help. Fortunate that a group of bikers had appeared like some kind of miracle. Fortunate that Derek hadn't killed her before they arrived. "Can I see my daughter now?" Diane asked. "Of course. She's been sleeping in the family waiting room with your friends." My friends, Diane thought. She had known the Desert Riders for less than 12 hours, yet they had stayed through the entire night. Rachel Martinez had sat with Emma, telling her stories about motorcycles and desert adventures until the little girl finally fell asleep. Bear Anderson had fetched coffee and snacks, his massive presence somehow comforting rather than intimidating. Dr. Reynolds handed Diane a folder of paperwork. "These are resources for domestic violence survivors in Arizona," she said gently. "There's information about restraining orders, counseling services, and legal assistance. You don't have to face this alone." Diane took the folder, her hands shaking slightly. She had been here before after her divorce from Emma's father. She had promised herself never again. Yet here she was, another man's violence marking her skin, another police report filed. What was wrong with her judgment? Why did she keep choosing men who hurt her? "Mrs. Thompson," Dr. Reynolds said, placing a hand on Diane's shoulder, "this wasn't your fault. The violence was his choice, not yours." Diane nodded, though she wasn't sure she believed it yet. She slipped on the clean clothes Rachel had somehow procured, jeans and a simple blue t-shirt that actually fit. Her own clothes had been taken as evidence. Another surreal detail in a night full of them. In the family waiting room, Diane found a scene that brought tears to her eyes. Emma was curled up on a couch, her head on Rachel's lap, sleeping peacefully. Rachel sat upright, one hand resting protectively on Emma's shoulder, her own eyes heavy with exhaustion. Bear was sprawled in a chair nearby, his large frame somehow folded into the too small seat, snoring softly. "Hey," Diane said quietly. Rachel's eyes opened immediately. Despite the tired lines on her face, she smiled. "Hey, how are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck. But alive, thanks to you." "Thanks to Emma," Rachel corrected. "That girl is something special." Diane sat down carefully in the chair across from them, every movement sending pain through her ribs. "You stayed all night." "Of course we stayed. You think we were going to leave you alone? That's not how the Desert Riders work. I don't understand why you're doing this. You don't even know us." Rachel was quiet for a moment, her dark eyes studying Diane's bruised face. "5 years ago, I was where you are now," she finally said. "My ex-husband put me in the hospital 3 times before I finally left. The last time, I didn't think I was going to survive. A nurse at the hospital connected me with resources, gave me a safe place to go, helped me start over. That nurse's name was Gloria Chen, and she saved my life." Diane listened, understanding dawning. "So when I see a woman who's been hurt, when I see a little girl brave enough to ask strangers for help, I think about Gloria," Rachel continued. "I think about how one person's kindness changed everything for me. Maybe we can be that for you and Emma." Before Diane could respond, Emma stirred, her eyes opening slowly. When she saw her mother, she sat up quickly. "Mommy!" "Hi, baby," Diane said, opening her arms. Emma flew into them, and Diane held her daughter close, ignoring the pain it caused. "I'm okay. We're okay." "Is he gone? Is Derek really gone?" "He's in jail, sweetheart, and he's going to stay there for a long time." Bear woke up at the sound of voices, stretching his enormous frame. "Morning," he rumbled. "There's a coffee shop downstairs that just opened. How about I get everyone breakfast?" "You don't have to do that," Diane protested. "I know I don't have to. I want to." "Pancakes okay for you, Emma?" Emma nodded shyly, still not quite sure what to make of these large tattooed people who had appeared in her life like characters from a storybook. While Bear went to fetch breakfast, Tommy Fletcher arrived with Miguel Santos and Danny Williams. They had spent the night dealing with police paperwork and ensuring Derek remained in custody. Tommy's face showed the strain of the sleepless night, but his eyes were alert and focused. "How is she?" Tommy asked Rachel quietly. "Physically, she'll heal. Emotionally," Rachel trailed off. Tommy nodded, understanding what she didn't say. He approached Diane carefully, aware that after last night, a man's presence might be frightening. "Mrs. Thompson, I'm Tommy Fletcher. We met briefly last night." "I remember," Diane said. "You pulled him off me. I want you to know that Derek Holland is being held on charges of assault and domestic violence. The prosecutor's office has been notified, and they take these cases seriously in Arizona. He won't be getting out on bail anytime soon." Relief washed over Diane's face. "Thank you for everything." "There's something else," Tommy continued. "The Desert Riders, we're a motorcycle club, but we're also a community. We help people. If you need anything, a place to stay, help with legal fees, someone to talk to, you just ask. We're here." Diane looked at this group of bikers who had transformed overnight from strangers into protectors. She thought about her empty trailer in the desert winds, the broken dishes on the floor, the blood probably still on the linoleum. She thought about going back there alone with Emma, jumping at every sound. "I don't have anywhere else to go," she admitted quietly. "My family's in Minnesota, and I can't afford to move. The trailer is all I can manage on my salary." Rachel and Tommy exchanged a glance. Some silent communication passed between them. "Let us make some calls," Tommy said. "Give us a few hours." Bear returned with bags of food from the hospital coffee shop: pancakes, fruit, coffee, and orange juice. They ate together in the waiting room, an odd assortment of people brought together by violence and compassion. Emma gradually warmed to the bikers, especially when Miguel showed her pictures on his phone of his own daughter Sophia, who was Emma's age. "She likes rabbits too," Miguel said, showing Emma a photo of Sophia holding a white bunny. "We got her one for her birthday." "I want a rabbit so bad," Emma said wistfully. "Maybe someday soon," Diane said, though she had no idea how they would manage pet expenses on top of everything else. 2 hours later, Tommy returned from making phone calls with news. "Okay, I talked to some people. First, there's a woman named Catherine Wells, who runs a domestic violence advocacy organization here in Phoenix. She's coming here this afternoon to meet with you about legal protections and counseling services. Second, I talked to the property manager at the Desert Winds. He's agreed to let you out of your lease without penalty, given the circumstances." "But where will we go?" Diane asked. "Rachel has a rental property. A small house in the Maryvale neighborhood. It's nothing fancy, but it has 2 bedrooms, a yard, and a good school district. The previous tenant just moved out. She's willing to rent it to you at cost until you get back on your feet. Diane stared at Rachel in disbelief. Why would you do that? Because I can, Rachel said simply. Because someone helped me when I needed it, and now I can help you. I can't afford much. I make barely enough to cover rent and food as it is. We'll work it out. First month is free while you recover. After that, we'll figure out a payment plan that works for your budget. Diane felt tears building again. She had spent so long being self-sufficient, refusing to ask for help even when she desperately needed it. Pride, maybe, or fear of being a burden. But looking at her daughter's bruised feet and remembering the terror in her eyes last night, Diane knew she couldn't afford pride. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, thank you." The rest of Sunday became a blur of activity. Bear and Miguel went to the Desert Wind's trailer to collect Diane and Emma's belongings. Tommy stayed at the hospital to wait for Catherine Wells, the victim advocate. Rachel and Danny took Diane and Emma to see the rental house in Maryvale. The house was small but clean, with white stucco walls and a red tile roof typical of Phoenix architecture. The yard was mostly desert landscaping, rocks, succulents, and a single mesquite tree providing shade. Inside, the living room had tan carpet and white walls. The kitchen was dated but functional. The 2 bedrooms were small but sufficient. "It's perfect," Diane said, walking through the space. It was nearly twice the size of their trailer and in a neighborhood that felt safer. Through the kitchen window, she could see children playing in a yard down the street. Emma ran from room to room, her spirits lifting for the first time since last night. "Can this be my room? It has a closet." "Whatever room you want, baby," Diane said. Rachel handed Diane a set of keys. "It's yours. We can move your stuff in this evening when Bear and Miguel get back." That evening, as the sun began to set over Phoenix, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, the Desert Riders helped move Diane and Emma into their new home. Bear carried boxes effortlessly. Miguel assembled Emma's bed frame. Danny, with his medic's gentle hands, helped Diane organize the kitchen, despite her protests that she could do it herself. Rachel hung curtains and made sure all the locks on the doors and windows were secure. Tommy arrived last, carrying 2 things, a casserole from his neighbor who cooked too much, and a legal folder from Catherine Wells containing a temporary restraining order against Derek Holland. "This is good for a year," Tommy explained, showing Diane the paperwork. "He can't come within 500 feet of you or Emma. If he violates it, he goes straight back to jail. Catherine also got you an appointment with a counselor who specializes in trauma for both you and Emma." Diane took the folder with shaking hands. Legal protection, counseling, a safe home, resources she hadn't even known to ask for. "I don't know how I'll ever repay you all." "You don't repay us," Bear said, his deep voice gentle. "You pay it forward. Someday, when you can, you help someone else who needs it." As the Desert Riders prepared to leave that night, Emma ran to each of them, hugging them goodbye. When she got to Tommy, she looked up at him with serious eyes. "Will we see you again?" Tommy knelt down. "Absolutely. We're friends now, Emma. Friends don't just disappear." "Promise?" "I promise." After the bikers left, Diane and Emma sat together on the couch in their new living room, surrounded by boxes, but feeling safer than they had in months. Emma leaned against her mother's side, careful of the bruises. "Mommy, the bikers are good people, aren't they?" "Yes, baby, they're very good people." "I thought bikers were supposed to be scary." Diane smiled despite the pain in her split lip. "I guess sometimes the people who look scary on the outside are the kindest on the inside." Outside, 8 motorcycles rumbled away into the Phoenix night, their riders carrying the satisfaction of knowing they had made a difference. For Tommy Fletcher, riding at the front of the pack, there was a sense of purpose that he hadn't felt since his Marine days. The Desert Riders had been founded on principles of brotherhood and service. Tonight, they had lived up to that in the best way possible. But as he navigated the familiar streets toward home, Tommy couldn't shake the feeling that their involvement with Diane and Emma Thompson was far from over. Derek Holland might be in jail now, but men like him didn't just disappear, and Tommy knew from experience that the aftermath of violence often brought its own complications. Still, whatever came next, the Desert Riders would face it together. That was the power of brotherhood, the strength of community, and the reason Tommy had survived his own darkest days. No one had to face their demons alone. 3 weeks passed. The Phoenix summer continued its relentless assault on the city, with temperatures regularly exceeding 115 degrees. But inside the small house in Maryvale, Diane and Emma Thompson were beginning to rebuild their lives. Diane returned to work at Rosie's Diner, though she now took only single shifts rather than the grueling doubles she had worked before. Her manager, an older woman named Ruth Carson, who had her own history of survival, had been understanding about Diane's situation. The tips weren't as good with fewer hours, but Rachel's generously low rent made it manageable. Emma had started seeing Dr. Lisa Patterson, a child psychologist who specialized in trauma. At first, Emma had been reluctant to talk, sitting silently in Dr. Patterson's colorful office, clutching her stuffed elephant. But gradually, through play therapy and gentle questioning, Emma began to process what she had witnessed. The nightmares came less frequently. The fear that had shadowed her eyes began to fade. Diane saw her own therapist, Dr. Robert Chen. No relation to Gloria Chen, the nurse Rachel had mentioned, though Diane liked the coincidence. Dr. Chen helped Diane understand patterns in her relationships, the psychology of why abuse victims sometimes returned to or sought out similar situations. It was difficult work, forcing Diane to examine parts of herself she had long avoided. The Desert Riders had become constant, if unobtrusive, presences in their lives. Tommy stopped by every few days, usually bringing something practical: groceries, a fan for Emma's room, a recommendation for a good mechanic when Diane's car started making ominous sounds. Rachel came by weekly, always with the excuse of checking on the house, but really checking on them. Bear showed up one Saturday with paint supplies and spent the entire day helping Emma paint her bedroom a bright, cheerful yellow. Miguel brought his daughter Sophia over for playdates, and soon Emma had her first real friend in the neighborhood. The two girls would play in the backyard, their laughter carrying through the open windows like music. Danny taught Emma basic first aid, making it into a game so she would feel empowered rather than afraid in emergencies. "Why are they doing all this?" Diane asked Rachel one evening as they sat on the small back patio, watching Emma and Sophia chase lizards among the rocks. "I told you before, it's what we do," Rachel said, sipping iced tea. "But also I think you and Emma have given us something too." "What could we possibly give you? You've given us everything." Rachel was quiet for a moment, watching the girls play. "Purpose," she finally said. "A lot of us in the Desert Riders, we've been through our own shit. Tommy with his PTSD from the war, me with my ex-husband, Bear with losing his wife to cancer 5 years ago. We found each other and we found riding, and that helped. But helping you and Emma, seeing you both get stronger every day, that reminds us why we survived our own nightmares. So we could be here for someone else's." Diane reached over and squeezed Rachel's hand. Over the past 3 weeks, Rachel had become more than just a landlord or a helpful biker. She had become a friend, perhaps the first genuine female friend Diane had ever had. The 4th week brought unexpected news. Derek Holland's bail hearing was scheduled. Catherine Wells, the victim advocate, called Diane to prepare her. The prosecutor is arguing against bail given the severity of the assault and the restraining order, Catherine explained over the phone. But there's a chance the judge might grant it with conditions. I wanted you to be prepared. Terror flooded through Diane. He could get out? It's possible. But if he does, he'll have strict conditions, GPS monitoring, no contact, mandatory anger management, and the restraining order stands regardless. Diane hung up the phone with shaking hands. She had just started to feel safe, started to believe that maybe this time would be different. The thought of Derek back on the streets, even with restrictions, brought all the fear rushing back. That evening, Tommy received a call from Diane. Her voice was barely above a whisper. He might get bail. Tommy was at her house within 20 minutes. He found Diane sitting on the couch, staring at nothing, while Emma played quietly in her room, unaware of the new threat. "Tell me what Catherine said," Tommy requested, sitting in the chair across from her. Diane repeated the conversation. Tommy listened carefully, his expression thoughtful. When she finished, he leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "Okay, here's what we're going to do," he said. "First, you're not alone in this. Second, if he gets bail, we'll make sure you have protection. I know a security company run by veterans. They do house monitoring, alarms, the works. We'll get your house set up. Third, the desert riders will make sure someone is always nearby. We won't intrude on your life, but we'll be close. I can't ask you to do that." "You're not asking, I'm telling you. This is what family does." Family. The word settled over Diane like a warm blanket. She had family in Minnesota, but they had never understood her choices, never supported her when she needed it most. These bikers, these supposed tough guys with their leather and motorcycles, had shown her more familial love in a month than her own relatives had in years. The bail hearing took place on a Tuesday. Diane didn't attend. Catherine advised that it wasn't necessary and might be traumatic. But Tommy went, sitting in the courtroom in his cleanest jeans and a button-down shirt. His presence a silent reminder that Diane Thompson wasn't alone. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Ana Maria Gonzalez, reviewed the case carefully. She looked at photos of Diane's injuries, read the police reports, and listened to the prosecutor's arguments. Then she looked at Derek Holland, who stood in his orange jumpsuit trying to appear remorseful, and made her decision. "Bail denied," Judge Gonzalez stated firmly. "Given the severity of the assault, the presence of a minor child, and the defendant's clear danger to the victim, I'm remanding Mr. Holland to custody until trial." Tommy texted Diane immediately. "Denied. He stays in jail." Diane burst into tears of relief when she received the message. Emma, sensing her mother's emotion, came running. "What's wrong, Mommy?" "Nothing's wrong, baby. Everything's right. We're safe." That weekend, the Desert Riders organized something special. They called it a community ride, a casual motorcycle trip around Phoenix with stops at local landmarks designed to build camaraderie and welcome new friends. Diane and Emma were invited as passengers. "I've never been on a motorcycle," Diane admitted to Rachel. "Then it's time to change that. You'll ride with me. Emma can ride with Tommy. It's safe, I promise." Saturday morning dawned clear and hot. Diane dressed Emma in jeans and a long-sleeve shirt despite the heat. Protective clothing, Rachel had explained. Tommy showed up with a child-sized helmet that he had somehow acquired, decorated with stars and moons. "For you," he said, presenting it to Emma with a small bow. Emma's eyes went wide. "Really? For me to keep? For you to keep?" The Desert Riders assembled in the parking lot of a local park, 8 riders in total, their motorcycles gleaming in the morning sun. Diane climbed onto the back of Rachel's Harley-Davidson Softail, her arms wrapping nervously around Rachel's waist. Emma sat in front of Tommy on his Road King, her small hands gripping the handlebars under his protective hold. "Ready?" Rachel called back to Diane. "I think so." The engines roared to life, and then they were moving. The nervousness Diane had felt dissolved almost immediately, replaced by exhilaration. The wind whipped past them as they rode through Phoenix streets, heading toward the desert outskirts. Diane could see Emma ahead, her helmet turning back and forth as she took in everything, clearly delighted. They rode to South Mountain Park, one of the largest municipal parks in the country. The group stopped at a scenic overlook where the entire Phoenix Valley spread out below them, the city shimmering in the heat. Bear had brought a cooler full of cold drinks and sandwiches. "What do you think?" Tommy asked Emma as they stood at the overlook, looking out over the desert landscape dotted with saguaro cacti. "It's beautiful," Emma breathed. "I've never seen Phoenix from up high before. The desert is like that. It might seem harsh and empty, but when you really look at it, it's full of beauty." They ate lunch together, this unlikely family of choice. Miguel told stories that made Emma giggle. Bear did magic tricks, making coins disappear and reappear. Rachel and Diane talked quietly about plans for the future. Diane was thinking about taking night classes at the community college, maybe studying nursing. On the ride back, Diane felt something shift inside her. For months, maybe years, she had been living in survival mode, just trying to get through each day. But now, riding through the Phoenix desert with the wind in her face and friends surrounding her, she felt something different. Hope, possibility, the sense that maybe, just maybe, her life could be more than just surviving. That evening, after Tommy had dropped them off and the sound of motorcycles had faded into the distance, Emma hugged her mother tight. "That was the best day ever," Emma said. "Yeah, baby, it really was. Mommy, do you think we can learn to ride motorcycles someday?" Diane laughed, the sound surprising her with its genuineness. "Maybe, someday. First, let's focus on getting you through 4th grade. Can Sophia come on the next ride?" "I'm sure she can. We'll ask Miguel." As Diane tucked Emma into bed that night, she noticed the drawing Emma had been working on. It showed a group of motorcycles under a bright sun, stick figures with smiling faces riding them. In the corner, Emma had written in her careful child's handwriting, "My new family." Diane taped the drawing to the refrigerator, right at eye level where she would see it every day. It was a reminder of how far they had come, of the unexpected angels who had appeared in their darkest moment, of the truth that family wasn't always about blood. Sometimes it was about who showed up when you needed them most. In his own house across town, Tommy Fletcher looked at a text from Rachel. "Good day. They're doing better." He smiled, typing back, "Yeah, they are." Tommy walked out to his garage where his Road King sat, already planning next week's maintenance. The motorcycle had taken him through deserts and mountains, through his own darkest valleys, and back to the light. It had connected him with brothers and sisters who understood, and now it had helped him give a frightened woman and her brave daughter a chance at a new beginning. He thought about his younger self, the Marine returning from Iraq broken and angry, drowning in alcohol and regret. If someone had told Tommy that he would find redemption on a motorcycle, that he would build a family from strangers who rode together, that he would help save lives not with a weapon but with presence and compassion, he never would have believed it. But here he was. Here they all were. The Desert Riders, a community built on brotherhood, service, and the simple belief that people needed each other. They had answered a little girl's desperate cry for help, and in doing so, they had reminded themselves why they rode in the first place. Not to escape life, but to embrace it fully. 8 months later, winter had come to Phoenix, bringing mild temperatures and clear blue skies that seemed to stretch forever. The brutal summer heat was a memory, replaced by pleasant days in the 70s that made the desert landscape bloom with unexpected color. Diane Thompson sat in her car outside the Maricopa County Courthouse, her hands gripping the steering wheel. Today was Derek Holland's sentencing. The trial had been relatively quick, the evidence too overwhelming for any real defense. Derek had been convicted of aggravated assault and domestic violence. Now the judge would determine how long he would spend in prison. Catherine Wells had told Diane she didn't need to attend, but Diane had decided she wanted to. Not for Derek, but for herself. She needed to see this chapter close officially, needed to look at the man who had hurt her and know that she was no longer afraid. A knock on her car window made her jump. Tommy Fletcher stood outside, Rachel Martinez beside him. Both wore their Desert Riders vests, but underneath they were dressed respectfully for court. Tommy in slacks and a collared shirt, Rachel in a simple black dress. "You didn't think we'd let you do this alone, did you?" Rachel asked as Diane stepped out of the car. "You don't have to." "We know we don't have to," Tommy interrupted gently. "We want to. Come on, let's get this done." The three of them walked into the courthouse together. In the months since that terrible night, Diane had continued therapy, had gotten stronger both mentally and physically. Her bruises had long since faded, leaving no visible marks, though the invisible ones took longer to heal. She had completed a victim advocacy program, started taking online classes in nursing at Phoenix College, and had even received a small promotion at Rosie's Diner to shift supervisor. But more than any external changes, Diane had changed internally. She had learned to recognize warning signs, to value herself, to understand that Derek's violence was never her fault. Dr. Chen had helped her see that breaking patterns required more than just leaving. It required understanding why those patterns existed in the first place. The courtroom was smaller than Diane expected, with wood paneling and fluorescent lights that gave everything a harsh quality. Derek sat at the defense table in a suit that seemed borrowed, his lawyer beside him. When Derek turned and saw Diane enter with Tommy and Rachel, something flickered across his face. Not remorse. Derek had never shown genuine remorse, but perhaps surprise that she had come. Judge Maria Gonzalez entered, and everyone rose. The proceedings began with the prosecutor, Assistant District Attorney James Reeves, presenting the sentencing recommendation. "Your Honor, the state recommends the maximum sentence allowed under Arizona law," Reeves stated. "Mr. Holland brutally assaulted Ms. Thompson in front of her 9-year-old daughter, causing significant physical and psychological harm. He has shown no genuine remorse, and his history indicates a pattern of escalating violence. The victim and her child deserve to feel safe." Derek's attorney, a tired-looking public defender named Martin Cross, argued for leniency. "Your Honor, my client has struggled with substance abuse. He's willing to complete treatment programs. He's a veteran who served his country." "Mr. Cross," Judge Gonzalez interrupted, "military service, while commendable, does not excuse domestic violence. I've reviewed Mr. Holland's record. He's had multiple opportunities for treatment and has failed to complete any program." The judge turned to Diane. "Ms. Thompson, would you like to make a victim impact statement?" Diane's heart pounded. She had written something, practiced it with Catherine Wells, but now, standing in this courtroom with Derek staring at her, the words seemed to disappear. Then she felt Rachel's hand squeeze her shoulder, felt Tommy's steady presence beside her, and remembered she wasn't alone anymore. "Yes, Your Honor," Diane said, her voice stronger than she expected. She walked to the podium, unfolding her paper with shaking hands. "8 months ago, Derek Holland nearly killed me," she began. "He beat me in front of my daughter, and she had to run into the desert alone at night to find help. My daughter was 9 years old, and she had to save my life because I couldn't save myself." Derek looked down, but Diane continued, her voice growing steadier. "For a long time, I blamed myself. I thought maybe I had said the wrong thing, done the wrong thing, provoked him somehow. But I've learned through months of therapy that nothing I did justified what he did. His violence was his choice and his responsibility." Diane looked directly at Derek now. "I want you to know that you didn't break me. You hurt me. You terrified my daughter, but you didn't break us. We're stronger now than we've ever been. We have real friends, real support, and real hope for the future. Whatever happens to you today, I'm going to be fine. Better than fine." She turned back to Judge Gonzalez. "Your Honor, I'm not here because I hate Derek. I'm here because I want him to get help so he never does this to anyone else. But mostly, I'm here because I needed to see that I'm not afraid anymore. Thank you." As Diane returned to her seat, she felt tears on her cheeks, but also a sense of lightness she hadn't experienced in years. She had faced her abuser and reclaimed her voice. Judge Gonzalez reviewed her notes, then looked at Derek. "Mr. Holland, do you have anything to say?" Derek stood awkwardly. "I'm sorry for what happened. I was drunk and didn't know what I was doing." "That's not an apology," Judge Gonzalez said sharply. "That's an excuse. Real remorse requires taking responsibility without conditions or justifications." She paused, reviewing the sentencing guidelines one final time. "Mr. Derek Holland, you are hereby sentenced to 8 years in the Arizona Department of Corrections for aggravated domestic violence. You will be required to complete substance abuse treatment and anger management programs while incarcerated. Upon release, you will serve 5 years of supervised probation with no contact provisions regarding Ms. Thompson and her daughter. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Honor," Derek mumbled. 8 years. Diane let the number sink in. Emma would be 17 when Derek was released. Old enough to understand, old enough to protect herself. And by then, Derek would be a stranger from their past, not a shadow over their present. As the bailiff led Derek away, he didn't look back. Diane watched him go, feeling the final threads of fear and connection dissolve. He was just a man now, a broken, violent man who had made terrible choices. He had no power over her anymore. Outside the courthouse, the Phoenix winter sun felt warm and welcoming. Tommy and Rachel flanked Diane as they walked to the parking lot. "You did amazing in there," Rachel said. "That took real courage. I couldn't have done it without you both, without all of the desert riders." "You could have," Tommy said, "but you didn't have to. That's the difference." Diane's phone buzzed with a text from Miguel. "How did it go?" She replied, 8 years. It's over." Within minutes, her phone lit up with messages from the desert riders, Bear, Danny, Miguel, and others she had met over the months. Messages of support, celebration, and solidarity. This was her community now, her chosen family. "Emma's school gets out in an hour," Diane said, checking her watch. "I promised to pick her up and tell her it's finally done." "Want company?" Rachel asked. "Actually, I think I need to do this one, just me and Emma. But thank you for everything." Tommy gave her a brief hug, careful and respectful. "You know where we are if you need us." "I do, and that makes all the difference." Diane drove to Emma's elementary school, Desert Vista Elementary, arriving early. She parked under a Palo Verde tree and waited, thinking about the journey that had brought them here. 8 months ago, she had been a victim, broken and bleeding on a trailer floor. Today, she was a survivor, strong enough to face her abuser in court and reclaim her narrative. The school bell rang, and children poured out of the building like a rainbow flood. Emma emerged with Sofia Santos, both girls carrying art projects and giggling about something. When Emma saw her mother's car, she waved goodbye to Sofia and ran over. "Hi, Mommy. Look what I made." Emma held up a clay sculpture of a rabbit, slightly lopsided but unmistakably proud. "It's beautiful, baby. Get in. I have something to tell you." Once Emma was buckled in, Diane turned to face her daughter. "You remember how I went to court today?" Emma nodded, her expression becoming serious. "For Derek?" "Yes." "The judge decided he's going to prison for 8 years. Emma processed this information quietly. In the months since that terrible night, she had also been in therapy, working through her trauma with Dr. Patterson. She understood more than most 9-year-olds about violence, consequences, and healing. "Is that good?" Emma asked. "Yes, sweetheart. That's very good." It means he can't hurt us or anyone else for a long time. It means we're safe. We've been safe for a while now, Emma said with the simple wisdom of children, because of the bikers. You're right, we have. But now it's official. Now it's done. Emma hugged her clay rabbit. Mommy, can we go see Tommy and tell him? He said he wanted to know. We can text him. He already knows. Can we still go see him anyway? He's teaching me how to change a bike tire this weekend. I don't want to miss it. Diane smiled, starting the car. Okay, let's go see Tommy. They drove to Tommy's house, a modest ranch-style home in the Sunny Slope neighborhood. His Harley was parked in the driveway, and when Diane knocked, Tommy answered wearing grease-stained work clothes. He had clearly been working on his bike. Hey, I didn't expect to see you two so soon, Tommy said, smiling. Emma wanted to come tell you the news herself, Diane explained. Emma stepped forward importantly. 8 years, and we're safe now. Tommy knelt down to Emma's level. That's right, you're safe. You've always been brave, Emma, but now you don't have to be brave about this anymore. You can just be a kid. Will you still teach me about motorcycles? Absolutely. In fact, I was just about to clean my chain. Want to help? Emma looked at Diane, who nodded permission. Emma ran into the garage, where Tommy's Road King sat on its stand, its chrome gleaming in the afternoon light. Tommy and Diane followed more slowly. How are you really doing? Tommy asked quietly. I'm good, actually good, not pretend good. It's strange. I thought I'd feel different after the sentencing, more relieved or something. But mostly I just feel like I can finally move forward without looking over my shoulder. That's exactly how you should feel. They watched Emma carefully examine the motorcycle chain, asking Tommy questions about every component. Her fear from 8 months ago had transformed into curiosity, her trauma into resilience. Tommy, I've been thinking, Diane said. I want to do something to give back. The Desert Riders saved our lives. I want to help other people the way you helped us. What did you have in mind? I'm studying nursing, but that'll take a few years. In the meantime, I talked to Catherine Wells about volunteering with her domestic violence organization. Maybe I can help other women who are where I was. Tommy smiled. I think that's a great idea. You'd be perfect for it. You understand what they're going through. I was also thinking maybe eventually I could learn to ride. Not right away, but someday. It seems like the Desert Riders have something special, and I'd like to be part of it, not just on the sidelines. Whenever you're ready, we'll teach you. Rachel would love to have another woman rider in the group. Over the next hour, Tommy taught Emma the basics of motorcycle maintenance while Diane watched, occasionally taking photos on her phone. This, she thought, was what healing looked like. Not grand gestures or dramatic moments, but simple afternoons spent with people who cared, learning new things, building new memories to replace the painful ones. As the sun began to set, painting the phoenix sky in shades of orange and pink, Diane and Emma prepared to leave. Emma hugged Tommy goodbye, her arms barely reaching around his waist. Thank you for everything, Tommy. You're like the uncle I never had. Tommy's eyes grew suspiciously bright. You're like the niece I never had, kiddo. See you this weekend for that tire-changing lesson. I'll be here. In the car driving home, Emma was quiet for a while, then said, Mommy, I'm happy now. Are you happy? Diane thought about the question. 8 months ago, she would have said she didn't remember what happiness felt like. But now, driving through her city with her daughter beside her, living in a safe home surrounded by true friends, pursuing education and purpose, she could answer honestly. Yes, baby, I'm happy. Good. Because you smile more now, and you don't look scared all the time. I'm not scared anymore, because of the Desert Riders, because of lots of things. The Desert Riders, yes, but also because of you, Emma. You were so brave that night. You saved us both. We saved each other. Emma said wisely. That evening, after Emma was in bed, Diane sat on her back patio, watching the stars emerge in the desert sky. Her phone buzzed with a message from the Desert Riders group chat. Rachel, ride this Sunday, weather's supposed to be perfect. Bear, I'm in. Breakfast at the usual spot? Miguel, Sophia wants Emma to come. Can they ride together with one of us? Danny, I'll bring my medic kit just in case. Wait, why am I always the responsible one? Tommy, because you're the youngest and we're breaking you in. Diane, you and Emma want to join? Diane smiled, typing back, we'll be there. This was her life now. Not perfect, life was never perfect, but good, real. Full of people who showed up, who cared, who proved that family wasn't just about blood, but about choice and commitment and showing up on the hard days. 3 months later, spring arrived in the Sonoran Desert, bringing wildflowers that carpeted the desert floor in unexpected colors. Diane completed her first semester of nursing classes with a 3.8 GPA. Emma made the honor roll at school and joined the art club. The clay rabbit she had made months ago sat on their fireplace mantel, slightly crooked but beloved. On a Saturday morning, Diane stood in an empty parking lot, wearing jeans, boots, and a leather jacket that Rachel had given her. In front of her sat a smaller motorcycle, a used Honda Shadow that Tommy had found and the Desert Riders had collectively purchased as a welcome to the family gift. Okay, the clutch is your friend, Rachel said, standing beside her. Ease it out slowly while you give it a little throttle. Diane's hands shook slightly on the handlebars. Learning to ride was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure, but she was done letting fear stop her from new experiences. She followed Rachel's instructions, and suddenly the bike was moving, slowly at first, then with increasing confidence. She rode in a large circle around the parking lot, the wind in her hair, the engine humming between her legs, and felt a surge of pure joy. Emma cheered from where she sat watching with Tommy and Bear. Go, Mommy, you're doing it! Diane completed the circle and came to a slightly wobbly stop, her face flushed with excitement. That was amazing! That's just the beginning, Rachel said, grinning. Pretty soon you'll be ready for the open road. And then Emma and I can both ride with the Desert Riders? Absolutely. Though Emma will have to wait a few years and settle for being our official passenger until she's old enough for her own bike. The months continued to pass, seasons changing in the subtle way they did in Phoenix. Summer heat gave way to winter mildness, then back to spring bloom. Diane finished her nursing prerequisites and applied to the nursing program at Phoenix College. Emma started 5th grade, confident and happy, her nightmares now rare occurrences rather than nightly terrors. Derek Holland became a distant memory, a cautionary tale, but no longer a source of fear. Diane heard through Catherine Wells that he had been written up multiple times in prison for refusing to participate in required programs. Some people never changed, but that was Derek's choice and Derek's consequence, no longer Diane's burden to carry. The Desert Riders continued to be constants in their lives. Sunday rides, barbecues, community service projects, and the simple comfort of knowing they weren't alone. Diane began volunteering with Catherine's organization, helping other domestic violence survivors navigate the confusing aftermath of abuse. She found that sharing her story helped others, and helping others completed her own healing. 1 year after that terrible night, the Desert Riders organized a special ride. They called it the Survivors Ride, a fundraising event for domestic violence services in Arizona. Diane and Emma participated, Emma riding with Tommy while Diane, now confident on her Honda Shadow, rode alongside Rachel. They rode through the Phoenix Desert, a long chain of motorcycles stretching across the landscape, raising awareness and money for people still trapped in violent situations. At the end of the ride, at a park in Scottsdale, there was a ceremony. Survivors spoke, resources were shared, and community was built. Tommy approached the microphone to speak about the Desert Riders' commitment to protecting the vulnerable. But before he could start, Emma tugged on his vest. "Can I say something?" she asked. Tommy looked at Diane, who nodded, her eyes already filling with tears. Tommy handed Emma the microphone, adjusting it to her height. Emma looked out at the crowd of hundreds of people, bikers, survivors, advocates, community members, and spoke with the clear voice of a child who had been through darkness and found light. "My name is Emma Grace Thompson. A year ago, a bad man hurt my mom. I was really scared. I ran and found these bikers, the Desert Riders, and I asked them for help. They came. They saved my mom. They gave us a new home. They became our family." Emma paused, looking back at the Desert Riders standing behind her. Tommy, Rachel, Bear, Miguel, Danny, and a dozen others. "I want everyone to know that if you're scared, if someone is hurting you, there are good people who will help. You just have to be brave enough to ask. The Desert Riders taught me that family isn't just about who you're born to. It's about who shows up when you need them." The crowd erupted in applause. Diane was openly crying now, as were Rachel and several others. Emma handed the microphone back to Tommy and ran to her mother, who scooped her up in a fierce hug. "I'm so proud of you," Diane whispered. "So incredibly proud." As the sun set over the Phoenix Desert that evening, the Desert Riders gathered around their motorcycles, preparing to head home. Diane and Emma stood among them, no longer victims who had been rescued, but members of a family who belonged. Tommy looked at his brothers and sisters in the club, at Diane and Emma, who had become such important parts of their community, and felt the satisfaction of purpose fulfilled. The Desert Riders had been founded on principles of brotherhood, service, and protection. They had lived those principles a year ago when a terrified little girl had run to them for help, and they continued to live them every day. "All right, family," Tommy called out, "let's ride home." Engines roared to life, a symphony of American steel and mechanical power. Diane mounted her Honda Shadow with increasing confidence, Emma climbing on behind her for the first time now that Diane had enough experience to carry a passenger. Mother and daughter, survivors and thrivers, part of something bigger than themselves. They rode into the desert evening, a community of riders united by their shared humanity, their commitment to each other, and the simple but profound belief that no one should face their darkest moments alone. The motorcycles carried them forward, not away from their pasts, but toward their futures, the road stretching endlessly ahead, full of possibility and hope. Behind them, the Phoenix skyline glowed in the fading light, a city of survivors in a desert that seemed harsh but was actually full of hidden beauty. If you knew where to look, if you had people to show you the way. And Diane and Emma had found those people. In the most unexpected place, at the most desperate moment, they had found family. They had found the Desert Riders, and in doing so, they had found themselves. The desert night embraced them as they rode, the stars beginning to emerge overhead, infinite and eternal, bearing witness to the small human stories that unfolded beneath them, stories of pain and redemption, violence and healing, fear and courage, and above all, the transformative power of community and love. This was their story, a girl who came crying to the bikers, a mother who was saved, a community that answered the call, and a family, chosen rather than born, that proved sometimes the strongest bonds are the ones we create ourselves.